Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. If you have been tuning in with us this month, you know it is our Space Exploration Month. So we've been talking to astronauts and scientists and engineers from NASA, Canadian Space Agency, and beyond, and learning about what it takes to leave our planet, to explore our solar system, as well as the universe beyond. But of course, we're always interested in turning a lens back on our planet, on Earth, to help us understand it better in ways we never could before. So still lots of time in October left. If you visit our website, exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all the live space action we have coming up, as well as a whole bunch of other events from the world of science, exploration, conservation, and adventure. Joining us today, you are really in for kind of a 2-for-1 event. Not only is this a space exploration event, but last year, you may remember, we had an amazing series called Pioneers of the Possible. And we are having another round of that series this school year, which we are so excited about. So Pioneers of the Possible, it's a live event series hosted by Arctic and Antarctic explorer, climate advocate, and citizen scientist Sunniva Sorby. This unique series shines a spotlight on extraordinary individuals who are rewriting the rules of what's possible, breaking boundaries in their fields, and driving meaningful change around the world. Over the course of her career, Sunniva has journeyed to some of the most remote and awe-inspiring places on Earth, from Antarctica's icy expanses to the fragile ecosystems of the Arctic. Along the way, she's met extraordinary visionary scientists, explorers, innovators, artists, and activists whose work is shaping the future of our planet. Now, through Pioneers of the Possible, she brings them directly into classrooms and communities across Canada and the United States. So I'm going to reach backstage. I'm going to grab Sunniva right now. Here we go. Hey, Sunniva, how are you?
Hey, Joe. I'm doing great, thanks. Loving all the rain here in BC, Vancouver Island, what's the reason they call it a rainforest, right?
Absolutely. Well, that was going to be one of my first questions, because sometimes we catch you in different places around the world. So we have you back home in BC right now. That's pretty cool.
It is. And I feel very fortunate because I've really scaled back my travel so that I can do a lot more work at home, and it's working so far. So very happy to be on home soil.
All right. Well, we love the Pioneers of the Possible series. Last year, we had an amazing group of speakers. So classrooms do want to go back in time. If you visit the event page for it on our website, you can see all of last year's lessons down at the bottom. And then each month this school year, we're going to have brand new hangouts with Sunniva and some special guests. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a great school year.
I'm excited too. And this is not about me at all. It's really, we travel around. You and I travel a lot for a living, just because of what we do. And along the way, how lucky are we to meet some extraordinary people? And today I couldn't be more thrilled to have Cady join us, because I had never met an astronaut before meeting her. And she's just one of the coolest, most down-to-earth people I've ever met, given the scope and the enormity of what she's done in her career. So I can't wait for the schools to meet her. So very happy. Thanks for hosting today, Joe.
All right. Well, speaking of those schools, we've got a great group on YouTube. So don't be shy. Give us a shout out. I see groups in Washington, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, grade 8s in Ottawa. I'm actually in Ottawa today. I'm in a hotel. I have an event tonight. So I see groups saying hi there. I've got a ton of camera classrooms backstage, so we're going to bring them at different times for a little Q&A action. But I think it's time we bring Cady in.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cady Coleman is a retired NASA astronaut and United States Air Force colonel who flew twice on the space shuttle and spent 159 days aboard the International Space Station. She's a popular public speaker and media consultant. She's also a regular contributor for Space Exploration News and a research affiliate at MIT's Media Lab. She's written a book called Sharing Space, An Astronaut's Guide to Mission, Wonder, and Making Change. And she and her family were featured in PBS's Space, The Longest Goodbye. So let's see, we've got Cady backstage. Hey, Cady, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys? So nice to, well, we haven't, Joe, gotten to talk very much yet, but Sunniva and I have known each other for a while. I'm so excited to see you, Sunniva.
Yeah, really excited to see you too, Cady. And gosh, I wish I had, seen the movie and read your book before I met you, because after I met you and started peeling back the layers on what you've done and what your family's gone through, just saying goodbye to you as you went up into space, there's just so much I want to know, but I'm not going to ask too many questions. I'm going to save it for the kids, but I do want you to, because when I met you, it was up in Svalbard and had the pleasure of meeting your husband, who is just amazing. And I think that your whole family has a lot of talent, and I bet even your cats, your two cats probably have lots of talent too. But I would you spend just a second talking about this beautiful, it's a glass ball, and it's they're all made by your husband Josh, who has a glass blowing business, and it's just I have put several of these in really remote locations around the world since meeting the two of you. But could you share just a little bit about the nature of these?
Well, he started making
Oh my
these,
gosh.
and I'm married to him, so I have one that's bigger, right? So I'm scooching up here. 1 second, one big scooch. But I think they're actually, part of what I would love to talk about today really is that I think everybody explores in different ways. And he's an artist, and he moved into this old house. I'm in the living room of it right now. It was built in 1810. And so it's 200 years old. And it turns out that as people were growing up and living and learning and going to school, there was a kid who would come home from school and be a little bit overwhelmed by school. And his mom often would just say, well, why don't you go play on the porch with your marbles? And we know this story because the families that lived here still have reunions at our house. And he told us this story. But meanwhile, Josh actually found, when he moved into this house, he found marbles in the garden. And so he realized, like, these marbles, they're really cool. And I think that if I made marbles look like planets, kids could realize that, like, if you get far away from our planet, from Earth, we're going to look like a little marble. And in fact, one of the astronauts, that's actually what they said, is that when they were looking back at the Earth, when they were on their way to the moon, that they could cover the Earth with their thumb. And they thought it was an important perspective to realize that this is the place that we live, but there's other places, and who knows what they look like and what they're like. And that's what exploring is all about. And, and just showing, I'll show the camera here, there's all these different parts of it, and they're all made of glass, but everyone tells stories in their own way. And I love these planets because I before I knew him, he made them long before we ever met. And I wanted to put one on my desk, a tiny one, to remind me of what I was going to try to do next after I finished my schooling to become a chemist.
Wow, fantastic. I cherish this, just so you know, and you can pass that on.
I'm so glad. And he loves it when people hide them. He hides them here in the flower pots and, in town and places like that. So
there's actually a woman who wrote Finding the Mother Tree. Her name is Suzanne Simard. She has one, and she actually placed it up in northern BC in the remote region of right near Nemo Bay, actually. So who knows where she tucked it.
Well, it's kind of, all of us have our own way of kind of saying, I was here, or, I don't know. It's not like being, I was here. It's more just like kind of, I don't know, making a little connection point with someplace that you are. And in fact, when I got back from living in space, it meant a lot to me to be on the space station and see, go around the Earth 16 times every day. And the Earth is turning below us. So we're seeing different parts all the time. And whenever I've gotten to go someplace that I've seen from space and actually be right there on Earth, and often it has to do with coastline and in just like South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa. So often what I do is I put my feet in the water here in the States, or I mean here on the ground on Earth. But it makes me think about what it was like to see that from space.
Thank you for that. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Very cool, Cady. Well, we have a bunch of students hanging out with us today who are probably very eager to hear a little bit about what it's like to leave our planet, to look back at our home, to really see the size of it, that thin blue atmosphere that protects us. An experience that I think if everybody could have, it would change our perspective so profoundly. But yeah, we'd love to dive into a little bit of your adventures, your experiences off our planet.
Thank you. And I'm excited that, now we have a lot of different kinds of astronauts. There's not just one way to go to space and be, have gone to space, but there's lots of companies bringing people, and lots of different countries that didn't participate before participating. And that really means a lot to me. But I'm going to show you some slides, and I'll probably go through them a little bit fast because I just like you to see some pictures. This is actually a very special picture because I am inside this space shuttle. So on the right, on the left is our external tank and those solid rocket boosters, and on the right is the space shuttle with its engines. And I am up in the top of that. It was my very, very first flight, and I get chills just actually looking at this picture because it's just amazing. And don't worry, not a person did take that picture, but by doing it sort of from a distance, just so you know they didn't get hurt. And that was my first mission. And I will just say that my first mission, I'm a scientist originally, and that is something really important for people to understand, is that everyone who is an astronaut is something else first. And so whatever you're thinking is really interesting, that's what you want to learn about, because to get picked by, to be an astronaut for one of the countries and live on the space station, et cetera, I think knowing one field and just having experiences and learning things is really important. Don't think you have to do things just to be an astronaut. You just have to be yourself. But I am a chemist, and I was in the Air Force as well, but I did chemistry in the Air Force, new materials for airplanes. And on that first mission, it was a 16-day mission to do science experiments up on the space shuttle so that we could understand how to build the space station. So that was a science mission. And then a couple years later is this mission, and this the little telescope that you see in front of us, that is called the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and that's a tiny model. The real thing, you'll see it in a minute, is the biggest thing we ever brought to space. And this is our crew. Eileen Collins was the commander. It was the first time that we'd had a woman be in charge of the space shuttle. And here's us on the launch pad. And we'll listen for just a little. Main engine starting.
3. We have a go for engine start. 0. We have booster ignition and liftoff of Columbia.
That's where they took that picture.
Women in X-ray astronomy.
Houston, Columbia. We're in the roll, and we have a fuel cell pH number 1. Now you can see the space shuttle is still going up. It's still heading straight up to space. It looks like everything is okay. And I will tell you that everything did turn out okay. But what Eileen said was not expected. And I'll just kind of pause it right here and bring you to a picture of the whole crew in space, and just tell you that when we're talking about different people exploring, and Sunniva was really nice about maybe all the things that I've done in my life or gotten to do. But really, whenever there's a challenge in front of you, whether it's physically getting to someplace that's really hard to get to, or mentally, or bringing people together in your community or something, family, whenever you have a challenge, I mean, that's exploring. And it doesn't matter if it's what some people might think is small or big. If it's in your way, it's a challenge that you need to get over. And in our case, we had 2 very big challenges on our way to space, which was that we had an electrical short immediately after liftoff. And that's why Eileen said, we have a fuel cell pH number 1. It was an indication of a short circuit. And what that means when we're launching is that we have everything we need. And if we really need it, we have 3 of them. So we have a controller for all our engines, but then we actually have 2 of them for each engine. So when something happens like that, well, everything begins to matter because now we can't afford to lose much else. And so that's where all our training kicked in. And in fact, my first thought was, we just did this exact thing, this exact electrical short. We just did that in the simulator last week. We know how to do this. It doesn't mean that you're not going to focus the whole time that you do it. And by doing that, we ended up finding our way, well, not finding, but we ended up, in space, not quite in the right place because it turned out that we had a leak in one of our engines. And truthfully, you don't want to hear about these are the kinds of things you don't want to have during your launch. I mean, it's dangerous to be going to space. It's never going to be safe. We try to make it as safe as we can. And that's why we're trained to work through the problems together, try to be calm. We've gotten to know each other before the flight. And so that we've learned to listen to each other, even when we don't want to. And we ended up, safe and sound along with our telescope in space. That's the whole crew there. And this is the telescope with the telescope itself has a rocket on its rear end, and you can see it leaving the space shuttle. And I was in charge of this telescope, and that was actually a big job because the telescope is the only one of its kind that looks at X-rays. And that means it looks at black holes. Literally everything you ever learn about a black hole comes because this telescope, you're looking at the rocket at the back of it right now. When this telescope got into orbit, it started taking images and understanding X-rays, like when galaxies collide or stars explode, that's a supernova, or when black holes are sucking things in, they're spewing things out. And so all those things are X-rays. And this is X-rays, and this is actually an image of a black hole. And it's not just about what this telescope did. This telescope didn't take this image, but an infrared telescope did. And the infrared telescope knew where to look for the black hole and when to take the picture because Chandra was giving this telescope all the clues. So we have a family of telescopes that are helping us explore the universe. And that's really like, as an astronaut, I've gotten to go on a few missions, but I would say the mission is to explore. And that means here on Earth and it means in space. But for space, we got to do some really cool things. I told you I'm a chemist. Well, I got to learn to be a pilot. And these little planes go faster than the speed of sound, and it's very fun to be in them. But it's also a very good way to learn to be ready for the flight you just saw, for the launch you just saw. Because let's say you're in this airplane and you're in the cockpit, and suddenly the gas gauge goes to 0. Well, that doesn't sound good. Should you pull the handles and eject yourself out of the airplane? Well, what if actually you have plenty of gas, but it's only the gas gauge that just stopped working or stopped talking, not telling us the right answer? And so it turns out that the gas gauge, we had lots of gas. It was just the gas gauge. But you get to have some practice because when that gas gauge first goes to 0, I mean, I don't want to say it's scary, but it's definitely your stomach just goes, whoa. And you go into this different mode of, I've got to figure this out. And I've got to figure it out with my team, with the other pilot in the plane. And that's a lot of the kinds of things we did for training. Sunniva is from Norway. And I actually myself got to spend some time in Norway. And that gave Sunniva and I a lot in common, which I think helps us make a better team. But I also got to go to Antarctica, and it was on a search for meteorites. And our team of 4 people found about 400 meteorites, and the bigger team found about 600. That was 1,000 for all our teams, 1,000 meteorites that we found in Antarctica. And this is our 4-person team. And I lived in a tent for 6 weeks. And I will tell you that I was not a camping girl at the time. I didn't really know how to camp. But you know what? For things like this, they teach you. And, fellow explorers teach you how to do these things, how to do them safely, when to ask each other for help. This is an underwater habitat where I got to live for 11 days. And this is practicing in different kinds of almost spacesuits underwater, and also practicing just being with our teammates and being tired and maybe kind of grumpy and things don't work right. I mean, that happens here on Earth all the time in everybody's family and everybody's community, and when we simulate being astronauts. And it gives us good practice doing our best for the mission when circumstances are not great. And all that led to me being able to live on the International Space Station. And this is a picture of the space station. You can see the Earth pretty close. Realize that we are only about 250 miles above the Earth. And that's about 400 kilometers. And we go around the Earth every 90 minutes, every hour and a half. Meanwhile, the Earth is turning below us, and so we get to see so much of it. And we do this as a team. I went to space on my third mission in the Russian Soyuz with a Russian commander. In the middle is Dmitry, and with Paolo Nespoli on the right there. And we're from different places. We have different backgrounds. Paolo is more of an aviation person and a photographer and an art person as well. Dimitri is an aviation person, and I'm a little bit aviation and a little bit of art and music and a bunch of science. And together, we have to do the mission, even if we're really different from each other. And so this is me saying goodbye to my family right before I went to space. I was in Russia. That's our son, Jamie, and he is now 25. So that was actually quite a few years ago. And that was when he was 10. So it's about 14 years ago. And this is about a 1.5 minute video. And it's just showing us getting ready, climbing into our rocket. We're right in the, oh no, whoops, did I mess that up? No. Hopefully it's still going. Yep. We're right there in the top there. You can see me. It's kind of grainy video. And this is our ship coming into dock or rendezvous with the International Space Station. This is my favorite part right here, where I am flying through the space station. That, in my time up on the space station, that doesn't happen just like sometimes. Every time you want to go somewhere, you have to fly. And you can now I'm going to tuck my feet in so I can stay in one place. You can see that my hair is floating. My flutes that I play and I brought up to the space station are floating around. Everything is floating, and it makes it a really great place to do science experiments and a really great place to look out the window and discover the Earth. And we don't see things like this, like Aurora Australis. That's the northern lights, but in the south in Australia. It's over Madagascar. You can see Orion up there and the stars coming through. So we didn't see things like that all the time. This is city lights. All those bright lights are cities. If you see sparkly lights, those are lightning. And the thin blue-green line there, that is our atmosphere. And then I ended it on, I'm from the United States, but my parents each have relatives in Ireland. So that makes us kind of Irish too. And there's the space station. And the middle part is the place that we live. And when we get there, there's 3 people, and I'm going to race through these slides here. But when we get there, there's 3 people already up there. And we join them. So now we're 6. So we're a part of 2 teams, and they don't put us together because they think, oh, these people will be so nice together. They assume that we all understand the importance of the mission, and we're going to make it happen, and we're going to figure out how to do that. Some of that mission was science, and I wanted to show you this funny picture of Scott with all these lemons and grapefruits and tomatoes up there in space. The Russians sent a supply of fresh fruit up there. But you can see everything floats around, and that's what makes it a really cool science experiment. I mean, even eating, these are gummy bears, right? But even eating can be like a cool science experiment. And I mean, look at baseball. I just want to show you what it's like up there. This is Satoshi from Japan, and he loves baseball. And so he's pitching just like a pitcher. But well, everybody else is busy with experiments, so he has to be the whole team. And now he's going to tuck his feet in. He's grabbing the bat, which is really one of our only 6 flashlights, and he's the batter. And now he's going to catch the ball too. So it's a place where, because we fly around, it just reminds us that there's so many possibilities of what it's like, if that we fly from place to place, that it's just a really interesting place for doing spacewalks, but mostly doing science, finding out what do liquids really want to do, because those tiny forces that kind of keep them together in little balls are the only game in town up in space, because gravity doesn't tell liquids what to do. And gravity doesn't tell flames what to do. That was a combustion experiment. And we're growing plants up there. My job was to grow these plants in Jello. And the reason we're doing that is so we can have food on the way to Mars, understanding how to grow plants. But imagine, here we are learning how to grow plants in a place where it's hard to grow them, and we don't have a lot of power, and we can't really have good soil. Well, there's a lot of places on Earth that are like that too. So we're learning about growing plants on Earth as well. And let's see. And we get to play with, I said play, but this is a robot called Robonaut. You can see a little tiger around his neck. And that is a tiger that I brought up there for my son, who was 10 when I went to the space station. And I did a lot of medical experiments, finding out what happens to my health up there. Turns out it's really important because up in space, we lose bone because we don't walk around on our feet. So we lose bone and we lose muscle. And so we do a lot of tests to understand, can we make that better? How can we stay healthy? And it turns out that walking and running and being on your feet are all really good ways, as well as some vitamins. But learning how to keep our muscles so that on Earth, it's really important too, is to stay really healthy. And I this is one of my favorite experiments. I really loved that they used it in the picture. And because it's a fluids experiment, finding out, what do liquids really want to do? And it's important for everything you could imagine in your life. Everything that involves flow through a pipe, whether it is the plumbing in your house or the water in a river, understanding erosion, and medically. I mean, when we're not feeling healthy, we can put some kind of fluid from our body. Maybe it's spit, or maybe it's up your nose from a COVID test, and we put a little bit of that fluid on a slide, and the fluid climbs up the slide, and it tells us something about our health. Well, we get to understand why that works so well and how to make it work better by going to space. So, and that's a book that I wrote about going to space, because I really think it's a really wonderful place, and we learned a lot of things. And I like that we've had so many neat people up there. And this is me doing some science experiments still. But a lot of the teamwork lessons that we learn are things that I think are important for you. And I'll just show this part really quickly, in that in any group, I don't know if you look at this group, I wonder if there's anybody that stands out to you. And to me, right away, I mean, I'm the only person wearing something colorful. And President Obama is the only president and the only person of color. And then those two guys who don't have a lot of hair, well, those are the Kelly twins, Scott and Mark. They're identical twins. So they look alike. But I can tell you that it's not just us that sticks out in this picture that are important. It's important that every single person in this picture and in any picture is important, because each of us brings a different perspective that the other people don't have on their team. And the Kelly twins look identical. Well, it's not the same to work with them or to talk with them or to eat lunch with them. So we all have to learn how to find out what is it about each other that makes each other special. And to do that, you have to learn how to be connected. And this is my friend Nicole up in space. We both have kids that are about the same age. This is Scott that I was up there with for a long time. I think he looks kind of like the robot, and he knows that I say that. But this is Scott too. I mean, he found a cool slingshot up in space. All those bungee cords are going to make an amazing. And he has a great sense of fun. And even though people thought we were so different, we wouldn't get along, we really were a great teammates and liked being up there. There's Al Drew. You can barely see his face there, but Al Drew and I had to share everything that we knew and be really honest about what we could do. When we were up in space, and he was doing a spacewalk and I was operating the robotic arm, and I had to say, okay, Al, this is what I'm not good at. When we get to this part, it's the part that I have to really concentrate. So if you can wait to talk to me, don't talk to me during that part. And he said, okay, in these kinds of things, if I'm not talking, if I say, wait a minute, you just have to wait, because I'm thinking. And so we had to be really kind of vulnerable to each other in order to be a good team. And that's really what happens. And I'm going to stop right there, and we might come back to the slides, but I want to get to questions, if that would work out.
That would work great, Cady.
Let's see, is that me that makes it look funny? Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go. I took it away. That was awesome. We got Sunava back from backstage. There we go. I was really happy to see a picture of you and Nicole. Nicole has joined us on numerous occasions. She was just with us last week hanging out with Classroom. So it's always fun to hang out with Nicole.
So Nicole and I are both astronauts, and you think that, I mean, we have some similarities, and we do have a lot in common with our kids. But I learned so much. I worked for Nicole when she was in charge of all the experiments and all the procedures that we were doing up on the space station. And then also I was her backup. So we are definitely special friends. And I really, even though we're different and we do things differently, I think, together I learn a lot from her. And I think sometimes she says she learns a bunch from me too.
Yeah. And I think it's great how both of you are artists, you with your music, Nicole with her painting and watercolor that she did in space. So I think it's really important to show stuff like that, to show, how the arts can be an important part of discovery and science and exploration.
Well, and I think too, like when I don't know, it's just nice to know, like when you look into a group, you just think, well, somebody understands a little bit about me. And for Nicole and I, our kids were little when we were training for space. And sometimes I think this happens to your parents too, even though none of you are so little, is, I would get to a training session at 8 a.m. and Nicole and I would get there and we'd look at each other, and it would be this look that said, wow, have you already had an entire day and it's only 8 o'clock in the morning and we're starting work? And it just kind of makes me feel understood. And with Sunniva, we both speak Norwegian. She, of course, speaks very good Norwegian, and I speak a little. But it makes this thing that we have in common. And then you build on that when you have things you really have to worry about together.
Your Norwegian is very good, Cady.
Takk skal du ha.
You said so many things that are relevant to every single one of us on planet Earth. A couple of things stuck out, but one thing I want to highlight is that you came to being an astronaut by having a specialty, another skill of being a chemist. And I just think about all the different ways that we talk ourselves out of doing something or becoming something, and how it really starts with taking a risk and understanding that people are going to be there to support you and guide you and teach you. We don't have to show up as the expert. We show up with curiosity and a real willingness to learn, and what you just shared, vulnerability, right? By having people teach us. So thank you for sharing that. I think that every student can relate, especially in a world where everything is becoming so automated, that there are real life skills that we need to learn here on Earth to better understand each other and respect our differences and the teamwork part,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and when we go up there, we are electricians and plumbers and, all sorts of trades that I wished I had known more about. And I worked actually hard. In fact, when Don Pettit, you might have had Don on your show, he said, Cady, I hadn't done a lot of fixing of anything. I didn't have that kind of family. And he said, I would go and buy a lawnmower, Cady, and then I would fix it, take it apart and fix it. I'm just going to move I'm listening to you, Sunniva. I'm just going to move my shade down.
Yeah. Well, while you're grabbing the shade, we're going to start some Q&A action. So if you're tuning in on YouTube, we'll mix some of your questions in, but I'm going to start with some camera classrooms. We'll go back to YouTube, back to camera classrooms. We'll kind of mix things up a little bit. So I'm going to start off with some 6th graders. They are joining us from Ontario with Miss Haggerty. So let me grab them from backstage. Hey, 6th graders, how you doing? All right, great to have you with us. Do you have a question or two to get us started?
So when Cady, when you were in the water and Alberta, was that all like practice for to go to space?
I was actually in the water in Florida, and it was a habitat under the water, about 20 meters under the water, and that was definitely practice to go to space, because we can't, because we're diving down, we can't come up without going through a long procedure. After you've been down there like an hour, you can't come up, and so you can't get lost when you're working down underwater. And so we can't just stop when we want to. And so it makes us have to complete the mission. But I think that it's also, I learned things like, if I'm done with what I'm doing, I should look around and see if anybody else needs help in the habitat or outside. And if they don't need help, then I should take a picture of them, and I should take a video, and they should be good ones. And if all of that is done, then I should be labeling everybody's pictures and videos before we send them up to the surface. So there's always something to do, and that's what it's like in space too.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you have another one there, grade sixes?
Cady, what was your favorite memory when you were at space?
Probably waking up every morning, and there's just something that you feel, and you just really, I would realize I'm still weightless. I'm like, I'm still here. I mean, I really loved being up there, and it takes about a month to get good at doing things up there and holding on to everything and not losing things. And I just wanted to stay longer and longer, and I would have stayed another 6 months in a minute, because it's just such a great place to get. It just seems it's really important work. It's experiments we can't get done here on the ground. Can I give one quick example, Joe?
Of course.
Is like, for example, in biology, the way biological experiments work, and they brought a drug up there that's for cancer, and this kind of drug has to be delivered, dissolved in a solution, and with an intravenous into your vein. And they brought it up there, and they realized that they could have it form crystals, and that made them understand how to make crystals and how to make solid forms of the drug. And so now those chemotherapy patients are starting to be able to take tablets at home for their chemotherapy. And it was all based on the fact that it was kind of weightless. And so the crystals form more perfectly, and it helped them understand how to then make crystals here on Earth.
All right. There's a great example of technology in space coming back to help us here on Earth. Thanks, grade sixes. We're going to try and visit again. Fantastic Fives joining us in Ontario. Fantastic Five, Sixes, are you there?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. I think the camera might be covered.
What
Or
did
maybe not.
Declan didn't do anything?
That's okay. We can just use the voice too. There we go.
There we are.
Hey,
And then
everyone.
someone pulled this. Okay, everyone have a seat. Okay, Declan has a question.
So my question is it true that you get taller when you're in space?
It is true. And it's because gravity, our spine is it's kind of like a skeleton with little donuts in it, and the donuts get squished. That's our flesh, right? Our discs. And so up there in a few hours, I'm already taller. And so I got about, I would say, 1.5 inches. So what is that? About 3 centimeters taller, something like that. And then when we exercise, actually, it sort of smushes us down onto the treadmill. We wear a harness, and it pulls us down onto the treadmill, and that actually kind of shrinks us down again. So every day we're kind of doing this a little bit. But I liked being tall, and also I loved being small up there was actually pretty great, because you kind of fit everywhere where people don't fit. The big people don't fit.
All right, 5 6s. You got another one there for us?
Yeah, we do. We have one more.
My question is, what do you go through when you come down from space?
Well, first we're kind of sad, even though we're really happy to meet our families. But as you're coming down, you actually feel yourself getting sort of, excuse me, heavier and heavier, and maybe a pencil that you have kind of hooked just lightly on Velcro will start falling off, and things you didn't even realize were kind of just stuck on the walls a little bit, are falling down. We try to look for that before we go, but we could definitely feel ourselves getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and then you just feel so heavy. And then climbing out, people do help you out of the capsule, but we could climb out by ourselves if we wanted to. But the biggest thing is actually your head. I mean, what goes on in your brain and your head, and your vestibular system, how your balance and everything. And the thing I would, if you look up on the internet, you look up what do we call it? Splitting hairs and gravity. If I took a hair from my head, and then I took it and I just kind of held it, and I pushed against a handrail or anything up in the space station. So I'm in space, I have one hair, I push gently against something, it would actually push me all the way across the space station. That's how little force it takes to move. Just like the strength of a hair. If you do it hard, it's probably going to break. But if you do it slow, that you can move yourself. So think about how delicate that is. And now you get out of a capsule and you are walking, and it's like you just feel like the world is going like this. And we're all pretty nauseous. And I can't speak for anybody else, but definitely for landing, I was really nauseous. But we have some medicine for that, and it really helps a lot. And many, I would say, 3/4 of astronauts are nauseous when they get to space. So it happens the other way too. And so if you're somebody who maybe doesn't feel well when you're in the car, on the amusement parks, and there is no correlation, okay? No correlation between being, nauseous or motion sick on Earth and space. None. So you could still go.
All right. Thanks, 5-6s. We'll try and visit for a speed round at the end. As we transition to another camera class, Sunniva, you and Hilda spent a lot of time in a remote trapper's cabin in Bumsaboo. I think at some stages you might have been kind of the closest humans to our friends in the space station as it passed over top. So I
and
wonder.
They made measurements for us.
Oh, very
Yes,
nice.
we did.
So have you and Cady ever talked about, the similarities between your experiences? Far away from your loved ones, remote environments, isolated with someone you have to rely on, a teammate?
We have at the Explorers Club dinner, and then also on the trip up in Svalbard. And what I think about it is something you just said, Cady, that if you had the option to go back for another 6 months, you would have done it in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that, and I'm often asked, why in the world did you and Hilda decide to go back for like the second year, when COVID was happening?
Mm-hmm.
And it was not an easy decision, but what was very easy on so many levels that I know you can relate to, and that I think others can relate to, is the mission part.
Exactly.
Is that, it wasn't about us anymore. It was really about what we were doing and the contributions we were making. And then what became very important is, well, how do we as two people, because we were only two plus Etra.
Our favorite dog, even though I'm a cat person.
Dog, who I miss enormously every single day, was just how we would problem solve, both interpersonally and also dealing with things that happened that we quite honestly had no skills to do. But it was like you learn how to MacGyver things. You learn how to problem solve and try at things. And I think that's something I take back here at home in everything I do, that, we don't have the answers, but if we exercise our intellectual flexibility, right, we can find answers to things. And if we're vulnerable, we can ask for help. So that became really, really important for us up there. And yeah, I relate a lot to Cady's mission in some of those ways, but I can't even imagine the time that you spent up there and then your re-entry back here to your family.
Wow, really loved it up there, and I loved being back home too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's key though, Sunniva, that you said mission, where I think that's what helps you get over the friction of, whether it's just your own friction. And any of you kids who stayed up too late sometimes, and then the next day you're really crabby and nothing seems like it'll ever work. And, I just think that the fact that you're on the same mission, and if you've, I don't know, in a community, when you're having an argument at the town hall about whether we should have wind power or not, then when somebody goes, well, let's look at the big picture. And when you get reminded of the big picture, often you realize, oh, we are actually on the same mission. We just have different ideas. Let's see if we can work it out.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to Kansas this time. Before we do, though, there's a classroom backstage, but only the first name of the teacher is on my screen. It's Laura. So if you want to use a private chat and just let me know where your classroom is, then I can give you a better introduction when the time comes. But I've got Mrs. Kump's class here in Kansas now.
Go ahead. What was your favorite thing to do while on the International Space Station?
Favorite thing? It's the flying. Like, my middle name is Grace, Catherine Grace Coleman, but nobody calls me Grace. I'm not very graceful. And the fact that you could just fly, and it just kind of reminded you that you were in this place that was so special, where we're doing things that haven't been done before, and our ideas matter, and our ability to remember stories and tell them to other people matters. And I think the fact that down here, you kind of need an airplane to fly, or a parachute, or a hang glider or something, right? You don't just get to like be a human person. It was so interesting. And if you look at people in space, you can see the International Space Station, you can see them on TV, and you can look when a crew is first up there, they're not very good at getting around. And then after a while, they just look like fish people. They look different. Like, I can see who's been up there for a long time.
Very cool. Kansas, you got another one for us?
Yes. What was your favorite part of the world?
Ooh. Well, I always like home, right? And I live on the East Coast, and I don't live in Boston, but it has that little hook of Cape Cod. And one of the guys that I flew with on the shuttle, when we first saw that together, he goes, "Oh my gosh, it looks just like the map." And it's pretty neat that things look just like the map. But I love just discovering new places, and every place had kind of a different texture to it. And even, I don't know, it just made me, looking out the window really made me think. And I'm not going to tell you the favorite place, because I really didn't have one. But even like in the Midwest, and Denver, and well, maybe even Kansas, right? It can be like kind of flat. But I know people in Kansas, and I know people in Denver. And even though those places right there are flat and one color from space, I know how exciting those places are and how wonderful the people are. So it helped me remember that I have to have a perspective when I look down at the earth, that everywhere I look, there are people, and I always just wish they knew that they could get to each other and be connected.
All right, Mrs. Combs class, thanks for those great questions.
Nice to see you. Great.
Yeah, we're going to grab another classroom from backstage here. Mr. Silva's crew in Paris, Ontario. Let's see if I can get them in here. Looks like a big crew back there. Hey, everybody, how we doing? Oh, you want to grab the mic for me? We're still on mute. Oh, there comes the light.
See everybody. A lot of Canadians. I have to say that I'm a good friend of, I would say, all of your Canadian astronauts, and in fact, I play music with Chris Hadfield.
That's
We
pretty cool.
joined NASA on the very first day.
My question is, how do you drink water up there?
How do we drink water up there? Is that, yeah? So remember, we had the floating around of the water ball. Our water comes out of not a faucet, but a needle. And we keep it covered, of course, when we're not, using it. But water comes out of the needle, and our drink bags look just like you might have like a foil bag that you put a drink in, like Capri Sun or something like that, where it's got a little part where you can poke your straw in there. Well, we poke that onto the needle. We fill it with warm water or hot water or cold water, and then we pull it down. Our drinks are usually powdered in the bag, whether it's coffee or lemonade or whatever, or just water. And then we have a straw that we put in it, but an important part of our straw is the ability to close it and have it kind of clip closed, because otherwise, whenever you squish that bag, all the liquid's going to come out of that straw, and then it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and you could be in trouble.
So, Mr. Silva's class, before I give you your next question, I want to squeeze one in. The mystery class, I now know there are grade 6-7s from Brampton, and they have to go shortly, but they want to know the all-important space question of, how do you go to the bathroom in space?
Oh, well, funny you should ask. Hold on, okay? Let me just see here. I'm going away for a moment, hoping that this slide is down here.
Back there. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Be patient. Can you guys stay there for just a minute longer?
They're still backstage, so I'm thinking so.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hoping these guys, because instead of just like, we talk about the bathroom, but then we never explain it or make it like a class. And of course, now I cannot. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's see. I'm going to do this, and I'm coming back to you, and I'm going to share my. Oh, I am. Can I be sharing? Can you go to that?
It was there. Do you want to bring that back up on the line?
Oh, that's right. Okay, you taught me how to do that, Joe. Thank you.
Perfect.
So,
There it is.
there it is. And so you see the yellow funnel and the blue hose. That's where we pee into there. Now think about everything floating around, right? And so in order to make things go the way we need them to go, we use a vacuum. And I don't want you to try this at home, but see that M&M? It's getting kind of like pulled into there. That's because our pee goes into the hose. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is where everything yucky goes, okay? And that's paper and everything. All of your waste goes in there. And we have a plastic bag that's kind of stretched over the mouth of that. And you see the little red top at the tap, the little red tab at the top. That's like the mouth of the. You can pull on that red tab, and it'll come. The rubber band will come up to the top, and it closes that bag. But down at the bottom there are little holes in that bag where the little M&Ms are right now. And knowing we have holes in that bag so that we can use the force of vacuum to pull everything in, all the yucky stuff into one place, and it doesn't escape. But it doesn't go all the way through. It's not such a big vacuum that anything gross happens there. But when we're done, we do pull up on the rub tab. It scrunches the top of the bag closed. We push it down between a couple of paddles that kind of go bump, 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 and it goes into the bottom. And then that is a that it goes into a can in the bottom. And then we close the can when it's full, and we put it in a trash ship, and it burns up. But that's not what it's going to happen to you when you are astronauts, because when you are astronauts, you'll probably be going to the moon and Mars. You will be growing things. You will need that poop for fertilization. So you will not be able to burn up those poop cans.
All right. Well, that's very cool. I think we've been lucky enough to host astronauts on numerous occasions, but that's by far the best demonstration of the toilet that we've ever had, the M&Ms and the suction. So I think that really puts things nicely into perspective.
And the same thing for peeing. So the hose has got a funnel, and you really just have to point your pee into you could be upside down, right side up. You just have to point your pee into the hose, and it sucks it in there. And then it goes through some filters, and it comes out that needle, which is our water. And then we drink it.
That's right. You
Which
got to
might
recycle
kind of
everything.
gross you out, but pee is like 90-something%, like almost totally pure, clean water that was wonderful, and just a little bit of yucky stuff, and we know how to filter that out.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple YouTube questions. We have some grade 4s, St. Rita in Ottawa, and they would like to know what was the process like? How did you get recruited or apply to become an astronaut?
Well, apply is the operative word there. I mean, I tell people I applied, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, hey, I applied, like it's trivial, but applying for things is not easy, because you have to write down or type in why somebody would want you on their team. And so you have to brag about yourself a little bit. And it's hard to, or a lot. And because if you don't tell them what you could do if you were on that team, or what ideas you have, if they don't know who you really are, they can't pick you. And so you have to do this really hard thing, which is to write all the things that you're proud of, And I mean, well, this is my advice, is you write down all the things that you're proud of, and you can make it like a list you think no one will ever see. And then set it aside, and a day later, go look at that list and think, is this something somebody should know about me if I was going to be on their team? And if the answer is yes, then it needs to be in your application. But that NASA asks for new astronauts. We do have to apply. They don't just go, "Hey, we've been looking at you." You have to apply, and you have to have the courage. I think it takes bravery to apply. And then they go through a lot of applications. But the other thing I'll just tell you, because I know that you're all in school, is that I've looked at applications for astronauts. I've done the science ones before, and if you were going to tell me all about what, like, my field in chemistry, I wouldn't know whether what you did was important or not. But Suniv is an explorer, Joe's an explorer, they do different things. If they don't tell me, well, the reason this was so significant is that nobody's climbed that mountain before. I mean, as soon as you're talking about somebody else's field, you don't know. So make sure, this is my advice, you tell them in a simple sentence that even, like, your neighbor who doesn't know anything about whatever you do, that they could understand. You make a simple sentence. I looked at new materials for airplanes that were faster and lighter. Okay. And then I could tell them the details where they'd go. But then they can look as much as they want. But if you don't tell them the big picture, the simple thing in real language, they won't know. And that goes for every single thing you put on that application. Be clear. Don't ever think you should speak in a complicated way.
All right. Well, several classrooms online are curious about your sense of smell and taste. Do those change in space?
Mine did not seem to. I don't know. Some people say that they really needed to eat a lot of hot sauce and put a lot of salt on things. But we had Paolo, who's from Italy. And you got to think, I mean, food is pretty good in Italy. So Paolo was pretty sad about the food. Right. And so, Paolo was like, it doesn't do any good. It's not going to taste that much different. And really, it's more trouble to like take a squeeze bottle of hot sauce and not have it go everywhere. And I'm kind of messy. And so in the end, I just ate in the way that was the easiest way to eat, the less time consuming.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the food.
So Cady, I'm very cognizant of your time because we have hit the hour mark. I just want to find out if you have something you need to get to right away. Can we squeeze in a couple more? What's best to do now?
We can definitely do a couple more.
Okay.
Yeah. It's whatever you can do.
Okay. Let's do a speed round then and visit our camera classrooms. A few had to duck out for their recess, but I still have some with me. So let's go to our grade 6 classes. Do you have a final question for Cady? Oh, it's so hard to pick. I know there's lots of hands there.
If you could go to space and live there, if you had the chance to do that and take all your friends and family, would you?
Oh, would I? Yes.
No
question. I would go. Yep. I loved it up there, and I think the work we're doing, and by the time you get there, there's still going to be lots of really important things to discover. Like going to the moon. I mean, the moon has seen everything the Earth has seen, but it doesn't. But the Earth has like oceans and all these things that kind of change the Earth. But by going to the moon, we get to see like what was really happening in the universe. And people are going to go back to the moon probably this spring. And they won't actually land on the moon this spring, but they will go around the Earth or around the moon really far away, like, I don't know, 6,000 miles away. And they will see our Earth from far away, which I think is really changes you further away than me or anybody.
Sandra, if you could take all your friends and family and move to Bumsaboo, would you do it?
I don't think Bumsaboo could hold all my friends and family. It's
That'd be an addiction.
Well, not forever. Like you didn't tell me forever, right? He didn't ask me if I wanted to go to space forever.
Then I would say yes. And as a matter of fact, when we came back from Bumsaboo, which was 2021, we've gone back every year. We've chartered a ship and taken family and friends and scientists back to Bumsaboo to experience that place. And Cady was there with her husband and her friends, and Jamie was there also. You played the flute in the cabin. I'll never forget that. I just found a little video of that. It was amazing. Yeah, there's something really special about going to these edges of our world and edges of who we are to discover that the connection that we all have with each other in our natural world is much greater than we give credit to. And I love, Cady, the way that you make everything so digestible and relevant. And I think that has been for me kind of the challenge of what value are these explorations and expeditions if I can't give some meaning and relevance to people's understanding of the why,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think you're really, really good at that. I want to recommend that everybody watch The Longest Goodbye, which streams for free, if I'm not mistaken, on PBS. It was a powerful movie.
Yep.
Lots of questions for you, but I'm going to save them for an email about Mars.
Yeah, that part, yeah, it's a little tricky.
Yeah, but just try, and just. When I think about the South Pole and what made me the 4th team member on that expedition, it wasn't that I brought a really special skill set. it is that I was willing to do what you talked about. It's that inventory, like really personal, deep dive into who are you and being honest about that. And then who are you not? What skills don't you have?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that every single classroom that's on the call or on YouTube Live, excuse me, you start by planting seeds, find out what you're passionate about, what you love, what you're curious about, and then just add on to that every day, every year. And then slowly your resume becomes one that shines a light on all the skills you've amassed through your, passionate curiosity. So yeah, thanks for that reminder, Cady.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. 5 6s. Fantastic 5 6s. Do you have a fantastic question for us?
What does the speed going up feel like?
Ooh. It's it doesn't feel speedy, I don't think. I mean, you're already going 100 miles an hour anyway, but by the time you clear the launch pad, and you're going faster and faster, but it's the shuttle is like so heavy with all the fuel. And the same thing for the Soyuz rocket. It's got so much fuel in the beginning before it burns off. And so you're going slowly, but it's just, there's something about the way it feels. You just know like you are never going to stop until you get to space. And you just feel unstoppable. And I also loved my first flight. I couldn't look out the window above my head, but I could look at a mirror on my knee board, and I could see the window, and I could see the blue sky turning black and the clouds going. And it was so exciting to be there. But I do have to say that for me, it didn't matter what vehicle, what shuttle, what Soyuz, whatever. That was like the taxi. I wanted to live and work in space, partly because I am a scientist and I see all the possibilities of things we can discover there, especially about our health and about things on our planet.
All right. Thanks, 5 6s. And one more trip to Kansas. Yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs or the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, well, I was up on the space station when the Steelers were in the Super Bowl, and I made my own terrible towel out of a yellow towel. But I can't really pick. So actually, I'm going with Kansas Chiefs. I'm going Chiefs.
All right, you made them pretty happy over there.
And now you have to make us Canadians happy. We've got game 1 tonight for the World Series.
The Blue Jays, right? The Blue Jays, right?
Right. Toronto Blue Jays and the LA Dodgers. And Cady, what's your vote there?
Oh, Blue Jays. Okay. And here's why: is that when Chris Hadfield and Mark Garneau, who's passed away now, and I became astronauts in August of 1992. That in 1993 was the last time that the Blue Jays were in the World Series. And I don't know who in the world did this, but after they won the World Series, the flag at the Johnson Space Center was the Canadian flag.
Oh, pretty cool.
It's pretty powerful.
I don't know who did that. I just don't know.
Clearly not a Canadian.
Clearly not a Canadian. Must have involved a big team of people very excited to have started to work at NASA.
Very, very cool. Mrs. Combs class, thanks for those great questions. Thanks for joining us from Kansas today. Very cool to see you. Before we do sign off for today, we haven't talked a lot about playing the flute in space, and that is one last question I have here on YouTube. This class is dying to know if it was any different. Was it more challenging? What was it like to play the flute in space?
Well, first of all, it kind of was my thing that when I do it, I'm focused on playing the flute, and everything else kind of goes away. So it's kind of my way of sort of being by myself in a place where you can't be by yourself. But I would play my flute at the end of the day, usually, and I was always staying up a little bit late. I don't recommend that. Okay, I recommend getting more sleep than you think you need. And I say this as a person who didn't really do that very much. And it really matters. Okay, it really matters. Sleeping, you will be smarter. You will have more ideas. All those things if you sleep more. That's you. I'm looking at all of you. Anyways, so I would go in the middle of the station where the cupola was, and I would play my flute because then I knew it wouldn't kind of bother anybody. And it depends where you play. Just like here on Earth, when I would get ready to play maybe some kind of show where I'm like going to have a solo, I would go warm up in the bathroom because it's kind of a closed space and it kind of echoes and it makes you sound good. And it would make me feel like, oh, it's going to be okay. And so the cupola has lots of windows and things like that. The airlock has metal. I wouldn't play very much in the Japanese supply module because it was just all cloth bags and the sound was kind of like, bleh. And so I liked playing in the cupola. And I think if you are, and some of you may be really very professional flute players, but we often think about the flute is held up here and you're sort of bracing it on one side of your finger and your thumb and maybe your pinky. And so it's held up in these places, which is really 1, 2, and 3. But actually, place number 4 is gravity. There's a 4th steadying force, and that is from gravity. So without that, it kind of is a little bit unsteady, and I had to figure out a way to be steady. And if you are a really amazing flute player, you might really kind of notice that in your technique. But for me, lots of 8th notes, it was okay.
All right. Well, the first thing we have to do is a huge shout out to our classrooms. It was so great to have so many classrooms from Canada and the US. Your questions were amazing. Thank you so much for sending them in via the chat. Thank you to our camera classroom. I'm sorry we couldn't get to every question. It's always the toughest part of a live event with so many great students joining us from across North America. Sunniva, thank you for bringing us another really exciting Pioneers of the Possible. It's a great way to start off a brand new school year. And Cady, it was great to have you for the first time joining us and sharing your experiences leaving our planet, but what it taught you about being back here and importance of things like teamwork and working towards your skills. And I think that message of supporting others is so important right now, the way things are in the world.
Yep, definitely. I mean, when you see people, you just always be curious about your teammates, even if they're not teammates yet. You just never stop trying to learn more because there's always more to learn.
So important. It's never what we see, right? And so many people are kind of hiding behind devices a little bit today that it's difficult, maybe even for people to know who they are. And I would want to encourage that. I mean, you went far away without a social media for a very long time. I've done the same, and it's not to be disconnected. It's to realize maybe the value of real connection, which is the space that all the students are in school. You get to learn more about each other, and don't be afraid to ask each other questions and be curious about each other's interests and support each other with your dreams. They're all given I like to say they're all given to us for a reason. That's a quote from somewhere. I'm not sure where. It's not mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we sign off, a few classrooms are still sticking with us backstage. So if you guys want to give a big goodbye and thank you as we're signing off here right now. We're so great to have you with us. Have a great weekend, and we can't wait to see you again. Thank you, Cady. Thank you, Sunniva.
Thank you.